Hi, Matt with eTrailer. If you're looking for a set of running boards that are going to be pretty rugged, pretty rough, going to be more so for those really wet, slippery situations, to give you more traction, then the Aries RidgeStep running boards are going to be a great option for you. So let's check it out. And today we're going to be showcasing that on our 2024 Dodge Durango. And honestly, I think it's a great option for that. Really, any type of running board is going to help you some. Because when you're stepping up here, this might not be a huge step for me. I could probably manage, but if it's been a long day, you're pretty tired, or if maybe your knees are just a little bit rough and they can't reach up that high, this is going to help you out a little bit with that. Another reason I like this is it just kind of helps you access other parts of your vehicle. So if we look up at our roof, you notice we have a roof rack up here. If I'm trying to reach up here without standing on this, I'm going to find this is a lot more difficult to do. The fact that we can really travel a little bit more on here gives us, or makes this a little bit more manageable compared to if I was down here. And the last thing I really like about the ones that we have today is just the aesthetic that we get. This is going to give us more of this rough design, more rugged look. So if you are doing any type of off-roading or overlanding, it's going to help you look the part too. Well, let's kind of take a closer look at the design of these running boards. So looking right at them, these are going to be made of steel, and they're going to have this type of finish on them. It's going to be this kind of textured powder coat. So that powder coat is going to help it from rusting over time, since it is made from a sturdy steel. But with this finish, there's a rough texture to it. So that's in turn going to give you more traction on here. But what's going to give you the most amount of traction is going to be this extruded metal right here. That is great, especially if you have any type of boots with a lot of tread on them. When I put my foot on here, I find that this does really good at grabbing onto my shoe. I'm pulling on this pretty good, and it's going to take a lot for you to slip on this. And if you look here, we're also going to have this little wall. This goes from your running boards to your vehicle, and I think it kind of gives you more of an OEM finish altogether. But this is especially great if you're someone who is going through a lot of snow, ice, mud, dirt, whatever it be. It's going to help you just be a little bit more safe when you get in your vehicle. And you probably notice how long this is. It's going to be perfect if you have any passengers getting into the back of your vehicle. So if you have any kids, it's going to help them just get up here and prevent them from really stepping on the side of your vehicle and scratching things up. And speaking of lengths and sizes, let's kind of talk about some measurements. So the first one I want to talk about is going to be the width of the step. That's how much of your foot can actually get on here. That's going to be a little bit under 6.5 inches. So that's going to be good for most people. If I put my foot on here again, you're going to notice this is going to allow me to put the ball of my foot on here, which is perfect because that's going to give you a lot of stability out of this. If it was maybe a little bit wider, I think it'd be fine with that too. You just run the risk of this shooting out a little bit, and I think I like this a little bit more than something a little bit wider. But let's also talk about the height and how much of a step this is saving you. So if we compare it to what's just more standard on your vehicle, this step is going to be around 22 inches from the ground to your vehicle here. But the step from the ground to this step here is going to be a little bit under 10 inches. So that's about saving you half that amount of travel. So in turn, that's just going to make this a little bit more manageable and more easy. All in all, I think this is a pretty solid choice. I think of all the Aries options, I think this is going to be the one that gives you the most amount of traction. Now, if you want something maybe a little bit less aggressive than this, because if you have kids, if they trip, they might scrape their knees on this a little bit, then I'd recommend the Advanced Edge. Still going to have a rough design to it, but it's also going to give you a lot of traction because it's going to have the same type of finish as this, that textured powder coat. It's not going to have any of that extruded steel. That's really going to be the potential cutting point for someone. But any choice you really go with, they're all going to install the same way. And that's the neat thing about these. These are actually interchangeable with other types of Aries running boards. You can just simply take off this board, leave the brackets on, and put a new one on if you ever do want to change it up in the future. But if you're curious to see how this is going to install, just stay tuned. We'll walk you through the process. To start off the installation, I like to lay everything out. So right in front of it, we are going to have all the hardware that's necessary for this. I just like to lay this out just to make sure we have everything, nothing's missing or damaged. And then we're going to have our brackets too. You're going to have 2 sets of these. This is only one set we have right here, but they're all going to have specific points that go on your vehicle. Right here, we're going to have our rear one. Next to that, we're going to have our center one. And in front of that, we're going to have the front one. The way you can tell which one's which, there's going to be an indicator on them. It's going to be a little letter, just like that. It's going to be labeled F, C, and R for which location they go. Then we're going to come over here to our vehicle now, and we're just going to start prepping. And what we need to do is remove some adhesive tabs underneath our vehicle because they're going to be covering up some holes we're going to be using. Now there will be a few under here. You will have some spots marked in your instructions. It's kind of vague. It's roughly going to be placed like this. Now yours might be a little bit different. The best way I find to really figure out how I'm going to do this is I'm going to go to the frontmost hole. I'm going to remove that tab, and then there's going to be a series of them underneath. And I'm just going to go with every other tab. So there should be a tab here you remove, leave one, leave one, and then remove one. Now I'm going to show you how to take off one of these tabs. They might be a little bit different for you, but with this series, this is going to be a very thin tab, and I find it's best just to get a flathead screwdriver and stab into the center of it, just like that. Once it's in the center, then I'm just going to apply force to the side. This should kind of pop out. Just like that. And then you repeat that process on the other 2. And now we're going to grab this little bolt. It's going to be welded onto a plate. And what you're going to do is, where you remove those little plastic tabs or there's adhesive tabs, you're going to place it right there. With that in place, I'm going to take my little plastic retaining clip and slide it on. It's going to be a little bit tricky to do. I'm going to block the camera just for a second. There we go. And it's going to hold in place just like this. This is going to prevent this from pushing through when you put your brackets on. When this is done, then you're going to repeat this process on the other 2 holes. When you're putting your brackets on, they're all going to go in the same way. So you're going to line up that bolt with that hole on top of your bracket just right there. Right now I'm working on the center one. With the other ones, like your rear and front, you're going to have a tab that wraps around the back right here. Starting off with a flat washer, a split washer, and then I'm going to put on my bolt or my nut. Once you have it on there, you'll just kind of keep threading it. Eventually you're going to reach a point where you're going to get a little bit of resistance. That's going to be a good time to stop. Now, if you feel like it's just kind of sliding around and it's not going to tighten up, at least a little bit, what you can do is just pull down as you're tightening that nut so that plate doesn't spin around on you. And now I can move over to the other brackets. And for this next part, this is going to be kind of hard to see underneath our vehicle, so I'm going to show you the hardware now. We're going to have our M6 hardware. So that's going to consist of this bolt. You're going to have 2 flat washers on here. One is going to go on first, and then the next one will go on with your split washer, and then your nut. And I'm going to show you that a little bit more in depth now. Now we're going to start using that hardware. So I'm going over to my brackets again, and you're going to find that on your vehicle you have this little hole here. That hole is going to line up with a hole on the side of this bracket. I've already lined mine up, but if yours isn't lined up, you can just simply push it back and forth until it is. That's why you want to leave this a little bit loose when you're starting off with. As you can see, I only have 1 washer on my bolt at the time being, and I'm going to push this through the other side. Just like that. The reason I do it this way is because it's going to be a little bit easier to put my nut into place from the side. Now I'm going to put on my washer and lock nut. We're going to move back over to our bracket now, and you're going to find that you have this hole on your vehicle. It's going to be underneath. This hole should be lined up with the hole on your bracket. If it's not, you can just simply push this over to the side either which way until it is. That's why we didn't tighten this down all the way. Now, I'm going to show you our M6 hardware again. I only have that one washer on it right now because one is going to go on one side of the bracket. I'll try to push that through. With that through, I'm going to put that other washer and that split washer on. Put it on just like that. I'm going to grab our nut and thread that on. Again, we're only going to do this hand tight. There's going to be 2 of these that go on each one of your brackets. And once you're done with that, you repeat that process for the other 2 brackets. And from here, we're going to have our running board. What we're going to do is grab these C-clamps. These are going to come with your kit, and they're actually going to go into the running board itself. As you see where exactly, I'm going to flip this over. And you're going to see that we have this sort of channel right here. Those clamps or brackets are just going to go right into place like that and slide down. What I recommend doing is just trying to align this to the brackets on your vehicle. And once you have all 3 of these on there, then you can just roughly put it into place. We'll eventually reach the point where we need to install our M8 hardware. That's just going to be this bolt, split washer, and flat washer. And the way that's going to install is it's going to go through your bracket into this plate, and there's going to be 2 per side. When you do this, you're just going to loosely install them, just hand tight, and this will hold everything into place. And I wanted to show you guys what this is going to look like when we actually install it. So we're underneath our vehicle, the running board and the brackets, and that plate is just about in line. I'm just going to push this through until I can grab it into one of those holes. If it's not perfectly lining up, what you can do is just go to either side, push it a little bit, try again. Sometimes you can use that bolt to kind of grab onto the lip of that hole so it can line up. Then you can just loosely thread that on. And then you just repeat that process on all the other spots. And with this roughly in place, what we can do is really just push this back and forth. What we're trying to do is just find the right spot for this, and this is really just going to be up to you. Me personally, I don't like this section back here be anywhere past this point. That's just personal preference. I want it a little bit further away from my tire. And then I also recommend just kind of pushing it as close to your vehicle as possible. Because even if it's all the way out, you're not going to be getting any extra space because we do have this wall here. So I just like mine to be pushed in, so it's just more of a clean look. But again, it's up to you. And once that's done, we can tighten all our bolts. And from here, you're just going to repeat that on the other side and just make sure you do torque down all those bolts to the specs in your instructions. And after that, I just recommend testing it out to make sure it's going to be sturdy enough to hold you. Right now, that's feeling pretty good. But I'll do it for our look at the installation and some of the features of the Aries running boards on our 2024 Dodge Durango. I'm Matt. Thanks for watching.